Interim bantamweight champion Irshad Syed is set to fight Angola's Demart Pena in the EFC 55th edition on the 11th of November for the undisputed bantamweight champion title. Irshad is with us in studio this afternoon. Irshad, thank you very much for coming in. Back to your home city, your hometown. Believe you are based in New Zealand these days. You can tell us a bit more about that in a second. But yeah, first of all, training out of Singapore for a long time.
Yeah.
How did you end up there? What inspired you to get into fighting? And I believe you started with kickboxing. And how did you end up in New Zealand?
It's quite a story. I started training back in, when I was about 14 years old. I started kickboxing. My sister actually started before me. My dad sent her to learn just a bit of self-defense, and she'd always come home and I'd be interested to go and join the classes, and she always told me it was a ladies only class just because she didn't want me to join. And one night I went with my mom to pick her up, and I saw there were guys in the class, and and then I spoke to my parents and they enrolled me as well. So I started when I was about 15, and then I really enjoyed it, and then I moved into amateur competition. I had my first fight when I was 16, and then my first professional kickboxing fight I had when I was 17. And then I finished matric in that year, and then I decided I'm going to take a gap year, and I went over to Thailand to continue training and fighting, and that's where I really started to take it more seriously. And then I came back to South Africa. I spent a bit of time here. I did a bit of studying, just personal training courses, and then I moved over to Hong Kong. I was working and training and fighting for a gym there. Spent about 4 years in Hong Kong, and then I started fighting MMA at the same time. And I got an opportunity to move over to Singapore. They had a good MMA team, set up in Singapore. And that's when I started teaching a bit less and, becoming more of a professional athlete. And spent 3.5, almost 4 years as well in Singapore. And now I got married, and had started a family and started looking for a place to kind of settle down, a bit more quiet. And that's when my wife and I made the move to New Zealand. I still spent some time back in Singapore training with my old team, and then obviously in Cape Town as well.
Okay, so I believe you have an unbeaten record in kickboxing. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I'm not sure where you got that information.
Okay, well then obviously I need to double check that one. But your MMA record is 11-2.
Yeah.
So with your kickboxing background, how did you find this? What sort of adaptations did you need to make to your fighting style?
So obviously, coming from a kickboxing background, that's my strength, is to stay on my feet. And I always try to keep most of the fight, where I feel comfortable, and I'm most comfortable either on my feet or in a top position on the ground. So I feel I had a good setup moving into MMA. I had to tweak my style slightly. Obviously, I can't consistently push forward because that allows people the opportunity for a takedown. So I found I need to move a bit more, some more lateral movement in MMA to avoid the takedown of the wrestler and the strong ground opponents. But I feel I've transitioned well, and I feel I'm not just a kickboxer anymore. I'm more of a mixed martial artist at the moment.
Well, EFC lists your strengths as striking and takedowns. Would you agree with that?
Definitely agree with that. I use my striking to set up the takedowns, and it's definitely my strength.
Okay. Now explain, so you've obviously chosen to fight in the EFC. You've got this big bout coming up against Pena on the 11th of November. We'll speak a bit more about that in a second, and your opponent, what you know of him. But explain interim bantamweight champion.
So Demart and I were meant to fight earlier this year in April. He was at the time the current bantamweight champion, and he declined to fight me for various reasons. I like to think that he was scared, but whatever his personal reasons are, that's up to him and his team. But it wasn't the first time that they declined to fight me. So it happened on various occasions. So instead of just giving me another opponent to fight, they awarded me with the interim title. And now I've got to unify the belt against Demart. So you know, it's finally, the fight's finally come to fruition, and I finally have a chance to prove myself that I am actually the best fighter in the bantamweight division.